The longer we live on this planet, the more expensive things seem to get, and many folks, including us gamers, just don't have the disposable income they once had. Paying upwards of £50 for a game is now out of the question for many, but just because you haven't got a ton of cash to spare, it doesn't mean that you can't engage in your favourite hobby. For today's list, we've gone on a hunt for decent video games that cost less than £1. While you won't find any Ocarina of Times or GTA 4s on this list, you will find some decently enjoyable titles that'll set you back less than the cost of a loaf of bread. These games all have a base price of £1 or less, so you won't have to rely on sales or the likes of CD keys, as these digital delights are just a quid all year round. Finally, we won't be including any free-to-play games on this list, as we've already covered those in a separate video. Are you ready to save some money, kids? I'm the cheap and cheerful Ben from TripleJump, and here are 10 great games that cost less than £1. Number 10. Beanie. Starting off with a bang here, or is it a buzz? Indeed, in 2022, Beanie was released, a 2D vertical platformer starring a bee that was developed by Marcus Horn, better known as Ciactro. Horn has described his work as snack games, with the idea being that they are short, cheap, thoroughly enjoyable, and easy to play. Beanie, like Horn's other works, includes the aesthetic and gameplay of your favourite 90s platformers, especially the likes of Banjo-Kazooie and Rayman. With its pre-rendered backgrounds and woodland aesthetic, Beanie is also evocative of titles like Donkey Kong Country and oozes charm. The goal of Beanie is simple, something you'll notice with many of the games on this list. Beanie's friend Kiwi wants some honey, so our rotund, bouncy insect chum makes his way up the tree, discovering multiple secrets across 9 levels. This pleasant romp is also a prelude to Super Kiwi 64, starring the aforementioned Kiwi, another game worth checking out if you have a couple of quid to spare. This title, though, costs only 89p on the Nintendo Switch eShop and just 79p on Steam. If you have a hankering for some 90s style platforming, you're not going to find it for a better price. Number 9. Alpaca Paca Dash. There comes a time in all of our lives when we ask ourselves that important question: which animal should we call upon to defeat darkness with lasers should the issue ever arise? Since 2017, I've had my answer, and it's clearly alpacas. In Alpaca Paca Dash, players are tasked with guiding their alpaca through a dark, dingy, and mysterious world, trying to survive for as long as possible. In this endless runner, you will meet enemies along the way, but don't worry your lovely face about it, because your alpaca is equipped with lasers, just as good old Sir Charles of Darwin intended. He's the guy who adds lasers to animals, right? Can our intrepid cameloid chums save the world and restore it to its former glory? Apparently, yes, as the further you progress and the more enemies you defeat, the brighter the world will become. It's not an easy game, but it isn't annoyingly difficult either, and there are coins to collect which allows you to unlock up to 11 unique alpacas, including some based on characters from other franchises, such as Sailor Moon. 89% of reviews on Steam are positive, and for only 79p, you'd be hard-pressed to find a more fun way to spend a couple of hours. Number 8. Keepsake. Released back in 2006 by Canadian developer Wicked Studios and re-released in 2018, Keepsake is a title of the point-and-click adventure variety. Playing from a third-person perspective with a blend of very attractive 2D and 3D visuals, gamers take on the role of Lydia, a new student at Dragonvale Academy. She turns up for her first day to meet her old friend Celeste, but the school is empty and Celeste is nowhere to be found. Assisted by her wolf/dragon friend Zack, who is a good boy, players will find an old doll Lydia gifted to Celeste, a keepsake, if you will. This causes strange images of Celeste's life to appear in Lydia's head and could hold some clues as to what happened at Dragonvale Academy. With an almost very nice 68 out of 100 on Metacritic from 26 critical reviews, Keepsake is perhaps the most well-known game on this list, and for only 79p on Steam, it could be yours. The story is estimated to take 15 hours to complete, and although the puzzles do get a bit obtuse towards the end, there are far worse ways to spend your loose change. Admittedly, 79 penny sweets would be less frustrating, but they'll still give you a headache when you hit the sugar crash, and they definitely won't last you 15 hours. Number 7. Handsome Mr. Frog. Released back in 2016 by Cowboy Color, this is a game about the eponymous Mr. Frog, who is a very handsome boy. In fact, if we'd done a Hunky Boys list in 2016, he would have been a shoo-in. Just look at that tongue! Blimey. Where was I? Across 35 levels, in 4 worlds, players are tasked with retrieving Mr. Frog's hat from much less attractive enemies after those scoundrels have the nerve to steal it. There is a great deal of platforming, licking, and spitting ugly enemies at their comrades, just like the little pink blob himself, Kirby, and there are also 64 very stylish outfits to unlock, which only help to accentuate Mr. Frog's handsomeness. Did we mention that he is very good looking? 91% of players on Steam have given handsome Mr. Frog their seal of approval, and at 79p your wallet will feel very handsome too. If you enjoy 2D platforming, pixel art and attractive amphibians, this is definitely a title for you. Quick question though, if Mr. Frog's enemies are scared of being eaten, then spat at their friends and develop a fear of amphibians, would they have amphobia? Sorry everyone, that joke really croaked. Number 6. Frequent Flyer. Developed in Latvia by Cold Wild Games and released in 2017, Frequent Flyer is a top-down shoot-'em-up. The retro gameplay and very attractive 2D pixel art style is very reminiscent of classics such as Time Pilot and Asteroids, but with something of a modern twist. The aim of the game is simple: shoot all the things! Of course, I'm being slightly facetious here, as there's much more to it than that. Frequent Flyer features more than 50 levels, many unique weapons, enemies and bonuses, and becomes progressively more difficult the longer you survive. At the low price of 79 British pennies on Steam, you could spend a solid few hours blasting your way through waves of enemies and unlocking new planes. The only critical review on Metacritic gave Frequent Flyer a score of 70 out of 100, saying that it was a throwback to a time when blowing things up and racking up points were all that you needed to have a good time on a Saturday afternoon. 89% of reviewers on Steam agree, giving Frequent Flyer a positive overall review. It may be economy priced, but this title is first class. Little aeroplane joke for you there. Number 5. Blood and Bacon. A popular game with YouTubers like Markiplier and Venos Gaming, Blood and Bacon is a 2016 co-op shooter similar to the critically acclaimed Left 4 Dead. Instead of Left 4 Dead zombies, however, in Blood and Bacon you will be shooting porcine monstrosities, trying to survive as long as possible. That's right, evil piggies are your target, hence the name Blood and Bacon. You know, it all makes sense now. Across multiple maps, the game cycles between day and night, and mini-bosses appear every 10 days, as well as giant pig monsters. As previously mentioned, many YouTube stars have given this game their seal of approval, probably because of the ridiculous nature of the whole thing, and you and your pals will soon find yourselves heartily chortling at the sheer ridiculousness of the scenario. 95% of over 24,000 Steam reviews are positive, and a 7.5 user score on Metacritic are certainly working in this game's favour. It absolutely isn't going to be for everyone, but at 79p, it's just really good value for money, you know, for those of you who are out for a pound of porky flesh. Just don't go around shooting real-life pigs, please. We love those little cuties. Number 4. Timberman. Over the years on this channel, we've described a number of games as easy to play and hard to master, and that sentiment is definitely applicable here, as the gameplay in Timberman could not be less complicated. One must simply chop trees and avoid being crushed by branches. It is surprisingly difficult to do it well, though, with the best players chopping and avoiding at an unbelievable pace. With over 30 million, yes, million players on Steam, this is one of the most popular games on this list. In addition to all of the tree chopping fun, there are myriad characters to unlock too, such as Timber Claws, Mr. President, and an actual bear. I can't say I've ever seen a lumberjack bear or a lumberjack president before, but I'm, not complaining. For 79p, you too could try your hand at mastering this fun arcade game to see if you can chop your way to the top of the leaderboard. With multiplayer against friends or strangers available for up to 8 players, you can easily see why this game is so popular. For a very nice £1.69 on Steam, PS4 and Xbox, and £1.79 on Switch for some reason, you could play Timberman Versus with more game modes and a beefier character selection. Reviews aren't so stellar for this one though, so perhaps you should stick to the original. Number 3. Republic Anniversary Edition. Originally a mobile game that was given a full release, Republic Anniversary Edition is a stealth game set in a totalitarian state. Hope, the main protagonist, must hack into the system, take control and escape to freedom, with the player acting as her guide. Featuring an all-star cast including David Hayter of Metal Gear Solid fame and Jennifer Hale from Mass Effect, this game is episodic in nature, released in 5 parts. There are many hours of gameplay here, and the title boasts an intriguing story and stunning visual presentation. Republic Anniversary Edition currently holds a score of 71 on Metacritic from 5 critic reviews. The controls, camera, and the need for a trial and error approach to playing the game were criticised, but many reviewers still had an enjoyable time, especially praising the world building. Republic used to be on Steam and PS4, but the only place you can currently play this entry is on Nintendo Switch, available on the eShop for just 82p after the price suddenly dropped from over £10 back in 2022. That's right, Solid Snake and Commander Shepard provided their voices for a game that costs less than a pint of milk. For that price, it's undoubtedly worth giving this one a go, especially if you're a fan of dystopian worlds and stealthy adventures. Number 2. Many classic Sega games. That's right, there are multiple games in this entry, so I suppose you could say it's a wild card. Don't tell Peter. Sega have produced some of the greatest games and franchises of all time, along with some iconic consoles, and perhaps the best was the Sega Mega Drive, or Sega Genesis, if you want to get North American about this. What were once top-price products for the Mega Drive can now be bought individually for as low as £1 on Steam. There are some absolute classics here, with multiple entries from the Golden Axe series, Shinobi, Alex Kidd, and a certain dolphin by the name of Echo, among others. Surprisingly, there are no entries from your favourite super-fast, spiky-haired blue hedgehog, though. You have to pay a little extra for those. With all of that said, if you have some extra cash and an itch for more classic Sega content, then it's probably more than worthwhile to just buy the entire bundle of over 50 titles, which is regularly on sale and available on consoles. You'll save yourself a bunch of cash and have tens, nay hundreds of hours of Sega e-goodness. Mega Drive, more like mega savings, got 'em! Number 1. Tori 3D. It's time for another visit from our old friend Ciactro, who has another bite-sized entry for us, only this one features the little yellow bird, or chirp, Tori. As with Beanie, the inspiration from early 3D platformers is clear for all to see. The bright colours and cute aesthetic of Klonoa come to mind, crossed with the gameplay of Super Mario 64. Fast-paced, with tight controls and collectible stars, as well as an adorable mascot, Tori 3D has all the necessary ingredients for a great platformer. If you make an error, which is highly likely, then don't worry, because the game is incredibly generous with the old checkpoints. Tori probably won't take you long to beat, but with leaderboards and collectibles, there are plenty of reasons to keep coming back for more. If you enjoy Tori 3D, then its sequel, Tori 2, is also a must-buy and features more refined gameplay based on player feedback, so there is more of what was enjoyable about the first entry, but with a bit of added polish. These adorable snack games are only 89p in the Nintendo eShop and 79p on Steam, so why not go ahead and treat yourself? Right, all this talk of snacks and treats is making me peckish. Why do I suddenly feel like getting chicken?